Welcome to SFU Woodward's here at Goldcorp Center for the Arts. My name is Howard Jang. I'm the director of the SFU Woodward's Cultural Unit, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you could all be with us tonight. I first like to introduce to you Deborah Sparrow. Deborah was born and raised in the Musqueam Indian Reserve and is self-taught in the Salish design and jewelry making. In 1983, she joined a class of women in Musqueam which focused on the revival of Salish textiles and has since been combining textile and Salish designs in a contemporary way through geometric, hand-spun blankets and hangings. Deborah also designed the logo for the Canadian men's hockey team for the 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Ladies and gentlemen, Deborah Sparrow.
Thank you for that. Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of my chief, Wayne Sparrow, who, yes, does share the same last name as me because my little brother, and I taught him everything he knows. He would probably disagree, but I think if we go back in time, as I've seen in your beautiful images that I've been watching on the screen here, and appreciating the wonderful vision that all of you who are working in this wonderful area have achieved and will continue to do so, fits very appropriately into the kind of vision that our First Nations people in the Lower Mainland are working towards as we ourselves grow to another place of understanding. You know, education is really an amazing focus for all of us, and how we look at education is as important as the visions that we use to create these beautiful images that we, in this media, love to do. I love that saying that I shared with the Latin Film Festival that was here, and I opened for them and said, you know, there's a wonderful saying about visionary people that without a vision, people perish. And so it is us who are responsible for sharing with academia how very important the visions that we have as creative people who may not always been given the credit that to be creative is very academic. For example, the textiles that I use. When I have 100 or 200 strings on my beautiful loom and I'm making beautiful designs and beautiful music from those designs, I very much have to know my mathematics. I have to know that adding, dividing, subtracting is very important. So when I look back at 85 years of no creativity in terms of textiles in all of our Lower Mainland communities because of what we all know now today as residential school, taking away all of the very things that reflected who we are in hopes that they would take the Indian out of the Indian. Well, it didn't work because here we are. And we are stronger and becoming stronger and pulling up our own socks and going forward with the helps of people like you in this audience who do believe that there are many ways to learn. And even in university, I go and I share my story there. And, you know, I've had beautiful comments from people to say, well, what degree do you have? And I say, well, my professor's my grandfather who passed away at 100. My teachings come from all of my community because I have grade 7. And I'm not embarrassed to say that I do because, boy, if I have intelligence, where did I get it from? Well, I didn't get it where everybody thought it was. It is within the knowledge that's held and the way of the teachings of our people that I actually rebelled from the mainstream and took a step backwards in time. Today, now, what we know we have to do, and I'd like to thank my little guy for being with me tonight because I bring him with me to teach him. I show him what the world is about. And, you know, when he came down here with me tonight, he kind of said, wow, this is a different place because we don't come down to Vancouver very often, but I'm going to tell you something. It's things that are happening tonight that makes me want to come back. It makes me want to know you more. And I want to share with you my stories, and maybe one day you'll see on the screen those important stories that this beautiful land that we're all on and that we're all responsible for, because now, Vancouver, you have our history. We have been here for thousands of years, not just hundreds. And we want to share that with you. We want you to embrace the fact that you are an ancient people. You're not just 150 years old, for heaven's sakes. And we will share those stories with you, and we will educate together as we go forward from here, because we are at a very crucial time in this wonderful world we live in, and it's people like you that we're going to need to put the halt on a little bit and reevaluate just where we're going as people in educating ourselves. So with that, I would like to hold my hands up to all of you who are those visionary people, and those ones who take their hands and believe in them, and those ones who help to educate us about where we're going. So Hajj Kasiyam to all of you, and I hope you enjoy your night tonight. And I have to go out because I have my little guy with me, and I'm going to come back. Michael has promised to take me through, and I'm going to hold him to that, and yourself, and to bring good stories back to Musqueam. Hajj Kasiyam, thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you for being with us tonight. And thank you all for being here. It's so great to see so many friends, family, partnerships that we've had over the years, just to be in the room on this wonderful occasion. We have an amazing evening in store for you. So welcome to Hidden Past Digital Futures, a festival of immersive arts, as part of SFU's 50th anniversary. You will soon see and hear why it's called this, and it's so appropriate for this exhibition. We are so excited actually to reach this date. It's been in planning and development for, well, 2.5 years now. Knowing that 2015 was SFU's 50th anniversary, we felt that this was a tremendous opportunity to showcase not only what is possible, but also what the future could be. Now, 50 years ago in Canada must have been an incredible place, not just because I was born in the 60s, but in particular, I got one laugh out of that. Thanks, Alexandra. But in particular, the arts in Canada experienced an amazing decade of growth in the 60s, thanks to an investment with agencies like the Canada Council for the Arts, which resulted in an explosion of an art scene that is the true foundation of our creative economy that we enjoy today. All across Canada, theater companies, symphony orchestras, festivals, art galleries, performing arts centers have all been celebrating their golden anniversary. Now, although the Woodward's cultural unit is only 5 years old, as new as this building, we are building upon the enormous foundation of the arts in Canada. Over the past 5 years, we have grown and have established SFU Woodward's and the Goldcorp Center for the Arts as a cultural and community hub in the core of this city. We continue building on the success of partnerships and presentations that continue to set the mark for innovation, creation, community engagement, and artistic excellence. Now, 9 days ago, on Burnaby Mountain, where it all began, we had a spectacular opening to the 50th anniversary celebration and the year ahead. You might say it was the spark, maybe the ignition to get the celebration going. We literally lit the mountain on fire. Now we have the stake to go with that sizzle. Beginning tonight, we open the doors and the walls around us with 11 extraordinary and highly engaging works from Stan Douglas, Jeffrey Shaw, Robert Lepage, and Sarah Kenderdine, and through our partnerships with the School of Interactive Arts and Technology and the School for the Contemporary Arts. Shortly, you will hear from our very important and critical partners and the artists and creators who are bringing to Vancouver these monumental exhibitions that are sure to provoke, entertain, and deepen our understanding of our world and the community. Now, I must say that the original seed that was planted directly from our president, Andrew Petter, who made the suggestion that we should consider this exhibit for the 50th anniversary celebration at SFU. And I'm sure you'll all agree these exhibits connect perfectly to SFU's vision of engaging the world. It is my pleasure now to welcome to the podium our president, Andrew Petter.
Well, thank you, Howard, and thank you, Deborah, for that wonderful welcome. And I would like to start by acknowledging that we are privileged to be gathered on the traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples, on whose territories we live, work, and play every day. It's also a huge privilege to join with Howard in welcoming you to Hidden Past Digital Futures, a festival of immersive arts. And I, too, am just thrilled to see this turnout and see this wonderful mixture of people interested in the arts, interested in Simon Fraser University. As Howard mentioned, this is our 50th anniversary. We're very proud to have reached that milestone, and especially proud to call ourselves Canada's most community-engaged research university. It's my pleasure to be here tonight for an event that I think really aptly describes and captures that commitment to engagement and what it really means. By definition, real engagement requires great and willing partners. So I'd like to begin by acknowledging and thanking those who've joined with us to make this extraordinary evening possible. There is first our co-presenter, the National Film Board of Canada. And I know that we'll be hearing in a few minutes from NFB Commissioner Claude Joli-Coeur, and I want to thank you, Claude. There is the Vancouver International Film Festival, which is working with us on many of our 50th anniversary cultural programs, and I want to thank Jacqueline Dupuis and Alan Franey for their contribution to this evening and to the rest of those cultural events. I'm also just thrilled to welcome Jeffrey Shaw and Sarah Kenderdine from City University in Hong Kong, the co-creators of Pure Land and Place Hampi, two really extraordinary 3D immersive experiences which they bring here together with some amazing companion pieces, including Robert Lepage's Fragmentation. As Howard alluded, I first had the opportunity to see these exhibitions at City University when I visited Hong Kong in 2012. And I was just blown away, as were others who were with me. And we said, we really need to bring these exhibitions to Vancouver for the benefit of people here, and because they resonate in so many ways with aspects of Simon Fraser University. Like you, I suspect when you put on 3D glasses, having had the experience of the red and the green from the old days, you get a little skeptical, but that is not what this experience is like at all. It's not like going to those old horror flicks. Once you put on these 3D glasses and the images start to come to life, you really have a remarkable immersive experience unlike any other. This is one of those collaborations which really is itself engaging and speaks to the value of engagement. It's also perfect from a Simon Fraser University point of view in so many ways. First of all, it reflects our commitment to internationalization, to engaging the world, which is, of course, our tagline, both in our relationship with City University, a longtime partner of Simon Fraser University, as well as in the international subject matter of the installations. Second, it resonates with several of SFU's areas of academic strength: archaeology, interactive art and technology, and of course, contemporary arts. And third, even without these features, I would be proud that SFU has been given the opportunity to host the Canadian premiere of this visionary technological experience that has only been seen previously in North America at the Smithsonian, and in that case only in respect of the Pure Land component of the exhibition. And of course, what makes this event all the more exciting is that these two installations from City University are being presented in tandem with Circa 1948, a groundbreaking interactive story world co-created by internationally celebrated artist Stan Douglas, our own Stan Douglas from here in Vancouver, and by the NFB's award-winning digital studio in Vancouver. I also am really pleased that we're going to see some installations from our own School of Interactive Art and Technology as part of the mix here and enjoy what they have to contribute to this fabulous festival. Now, this festival is only the beginning of Simon Fraser University's 50th anniversary cultural celebrations. In fact, it's the first of three major cultural events celebrated for our 50th anniversary celebrations. So if you've got your calendars with you, you might want to note, if you don't, when you get home, do, that in November, we'll be presenting the world premiere of Air India Redacted, a multimedia opera with a book by poet René Saclekar. And in February, SFU will host the Western Canadian premiere of 887, a new play by SFU's longtime collaborator, Robert Lepage. And you know, it was so serendipitously wonderful because Michael Boucher reminded me that we saw Far Side of the Moon here before we flew to Hong Kong and met with Jeffrey Shaw, who told us that he was working with Robert Lepage in Hong Kong, and we're going to get to see the outcome of that collaboration as part of this installation, and then have the privilege of seeing Robert Lepage's newest play, which is being brought here in Vancouver for a West Coast premiere. So for now, I'd like to close by again thanking our presenters for their support, and thanking Stan Douglas, Sarah Kenderdine, Jeffrey Shaw for sharing their creative talents. And I should mention that tomorrow there's going to be a wonderful opportunity to hear a dialogue, a public discourse on digital futures, the impact of immersive media, which is co-presented by SFU Galleries. And the moderators for that dialogue are Sarah Diamond, president of the Ontario College of Art and Design and an SFU alumna, and Marcia Letterman, arts correspondent with the Globe and Mail. It's going to be a fascinating engagement, and I encourage you to attend. I also want to thank a number of others from Simon Fraser University, the SFU Woodward's Cultural Unit and its dynamic director, Howard Jang, together with the amazing Michael Boucher, Director of Cultural Programs and Partnerships, for his curatorial vision and the execution of this festival. They and others who have worked with them have slaved for years now to make sure that we would have the opportunity we're going to have not only today, but in the ensuing weeks to really enjoy a remarkable festival. I also want to acknowledge the leadership of Philip Steenkamp, who is Vice President, External Relations, has overseen and guided this initiative over that period of time and has been instrumental, along with his staff, in making sure that we can enjoy the festival that we're about to enjoy. And last, but certainly not least, thanks to our faculty, staff, and of course the engaged volunteers who have made this festival possible. And perhaps most of all, thanks to you. Because you know, you can't be an engaged university without people who engage with you. And I want to thank all the people of Vancouver who engage with us every day so we can live up to that aspiration we have to be Canada's most community engaged research university. Thank you very much. Enjoy the exhibition.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for your support and leadership. And as you've all heard, this was all his idea, so if you're not, well, you know where to go to. I want to acknowledge the tremendous work of Michael Boucher. When President Petter suggested we consider presenting these exhibits, it was handed over to Michael to find a way to make this all happen. He has worked tirelessly and with immense focus and dedication to ensure that what everyone will experience is the best it could possibly be. I also want to particularly acknowledge and thank the small and mighty cultural unit team. Their unflagging efforts and deep dedication to putting the art and our audience first is a testament to the power of working together with a shared vision. Michael will now take us through a bit of the journey to how we got here today and introduce you to our partners and our artists. Please join me in not only welcoming Michael to the podium, but to thank him for his leadership and dedication.
Wow, I don't know if I can live up to the bill, but anyway, I'll do my best. Just to begin with, the title, Hidden Past, Digital Futures, was largely driven by the content of the work. Pure Land and the other exhibits that Sarah and Jeffrey have created are really about uncovering pasts that are not really immediately relevant to us and turning them into incredible, I would say, beyond heritage capture, they become artworks in themselves. But not only is the work about the past, it's also relevant to how we're going to be seeing the future through what we have experienced. And what I'm talking about is largely these pieces with regards to Robert Lepage's piece, with regards to Air India, are all looking at situations, memories that are haunting us and how we come out of those memories. So in a lot of ways, including Circa, is the very same kind of weaving that is going on. Why I found this work rather interesting is that it was to just brought over Sarah and Jeffrey's work would have not permitted the context that I think which is really interesting about virtual and augmented reality. And so the idea of having comparative systems all in place and being able to experience them and appreciate the different technologies, different imaginings that go behind them, and different decisions that are made about how one interfaces with the technology. Some of these experiences you will find out are without wearing gear, and some of them are with wearing gear. So you'll see how that changes your experience, but nonetheless, the whole thing in a large way for me is still an art-driven experience that renews unique ways of storytelling. So I just wanted to come back to that's the heart and center of what I've been trying to do. And I just want to also say that it's fantastic, separate to these works, to include CIAT and the School for Contemporary Arts into the fabric of these events to showcase the innovation that's going on within the university itself. And it's a great way of collaborating, and in a way, this fantastic confluence will, I believe, influence future iterations of what comes of these great artists. But anyway, that said, I want to also reflect the fact that one of the key characteristics of the programming my team and I have been working on is largely we like to embrace technology and have technology be something that still is subordinate to the great storytellers and auteurs that want to tell these stories. So I want to then shift to indicating that a lot of this stuff is not just for an external engagement, it's also about the internal engagement. All the artists that are here, this fantastic constellation of artists, will in fact be going into the classrooms. So this is in a way, and they're also going to be discussing and meeting with faculty. So there's an incredible crossover opportunity here that I think is really, really interesting. And also I want to acknowledge that we've gone out of our way to work with getting fantastic docents or guides that are multilingual. So with the public experience, there will be this opportunity to experience Hidden Past Digital Futures in 8 different languages. So we'll always be English, as it'll be a bilingual tour, be it Mandarin and English, but it'll always be an opportunity for anyone from different cultural backgrounds that may want to ask questions with our docents. Our docents are prepared and ready to handle it. And let me tell you what a journey they've had to go through to learn all this stuff. So that aside, the great, also fantastic thing is that we're doing scholastic tours. So this will be from middle school students because of the nature of the content, and we're doing some 32 tours of those, and we're also doing 450 public tours. So the tours take approximately an hour. What you'll experience tonight, Howard will explain later, but it's not the full experience. You'll have to come back and get the full experience. But that said, that's the journey. So I want to, first of all, it's been such a rare opportunity to connect with the brain trust that I've been exposed to in the groups. I'm talking about the artists themselves. Certainly Jeffrey, is just an extraordinary man. Sarah, likewise. Stan's work is just remarkable in the way it's expressed and what he's doing to Vancouver and making us reflect about our past. There's a great meditation to all this stuff. So next, this could not be done without the partners. So I want to just thank so many of you, but I will do it individually, and I want to first of all recognize NFB and the NFB Digital Studios. I just want to tell you that this is rather an amazing serendipitous occasion, because what happened back in April of 2014, I got a cold call from Joanne Leduc from Montreal saying, we're looking at a location for circa 1948. Its Canadian premiere is going to be happening in Toronto, but we want to look at another location for the West Coast presentation. I said, there's no way the Canadian presentation is happening in Toronto. This is just a non-event. This is not going to happen. So I guilted her out, and it worked. They were just fantastic in terms of responding, because when I explained the Atrium, explained the Stan Douglas mural, the Abbott Cordova, she immediately got it. It just connected. And she came back, reflected on it, and she said, well, TIFF was kind of involved. I said, never mind TIFF. VIF is going to get it with us. So that's kind of what happened. So that's where we sort of manipulated and shaped, and it worked out to our advantage. Without further ado, I want to introduce Claude Joli-Coeur, the commissioner of the NFB, to say a few words. He has been remarkable. He is making a major move to regionalize the NFB, which is a major undertaking. Claude Joli-Coeur.
Merci, Michael. One very funny story. When I met Michael the first time, we realized that we came very close of going to law school at the same time. And Michael decided to divert to arts. And I did law school, so here I am, a bureaucrat leading a cultural institution, a creative institution. But I think that our talent have been able to reconnect 38 years after what what would have been maybe a colleague. I'm so happy to be here for this inauguration, because I followed the construction of this complex from day one. I've been at the NFB for 14 years, just now in my first year of commissioner. But what this building is, an SFU, and the people who had the leadership to think about how we could transform Vancouver and be such a creative hub is amazing and so emotional. So to have finally the first collaboration with SFU for me is a dream. And I remember when I was visiting this building, still in construction, and knowing that SFU was there, but how could we push the possibility of collaboration? And here we are tonight. So we're so happy to be part of that festival. It's showcasing. It's been mentioned. Remarkable collection of digital creations, and having Circa here. You are so right. To have it where else should have been started in Vancouver is just a great way also for us to celebrate that 50th anniversary of SFU. But I want also to salute our partners at the Vancouver International Film Festival. For more than 30 years, the festival has been an essential part of Vancouver's cultural landscape. And over the decades, you helped to shine a spotlight on Vancouver and BC talents, including those behind countless NFB works. And we're delighted to have you as a partner in this groundbreaking event. This whole collaboration is a great example of how we are developing partnerships to increase our presence and better engage with Canadians. And it's so essential for institutions with limited means to be able to partner to do more. Really, the rule 1 + 1 equals 3 is a perfect example of that kind of collaboration. The fact that we are working countless to put innovation and creation at the heart of all our production is really what is the fundamental motivation of our every day that we come to work. So that's why we are so excited to be working with an institution like SFU and creators from BC, being able to explore more new modes of storytelling, as well as local stories from the past to the present. And this collaboration with Stan Douglas on Circa 1948 is a perfect example of that. Stan is a legendary, do I have to tell you that, artist, not just here in his hometown of Vancouver, but around the world. What an honor, Stan, to have a collaboration of that nature with you. And today, thanks to that great work of Stan and the NFB team on Circa, we can step up Vancouver's past in a state-of-the-art interactive installation that makes us the interface as well as we experience the Vancouver post-war in real time. When you will experience that installation, you will really discover another way of appreciating a unique way of storytelling. And I want to pay tribute to Luc Dao, the executive producer of our digital studio here in Vancouver, and the whole team that took part in this project. Producers Dana Dansereau and Selwyn Jacob, project director Kelly Richard Fenning, Laura Mitchell, our project manager, Janine Steele, our production manager. And I don't have the time to name each and every one of you, but thanks to the entire team, it's a huge undertaking to produce that kind of installation. It needs a combination of so many talents. I'd like to take just a moment to talk about the great work that is happening here, just the other side of the atrium at our BC and Yukon studio. Our executive producer, Shirley Vercruz, and her team have a great new series of films premiering later this month at VIF. Mina Shim's Ninth Floor, an extraordinary film. John Bolton's Debris, so emotional about the piece of art that he's been creating from the debris of the tsunami. And Catherine Monk's Rock the Box, her first ever film. Great BC talents, all of them. And of course, I know that this installation will be seen later on in a month in Surrey at the SFU campus in Surrey. And I have to mention that today we had a board meeting, and our board members are here with me. They represent the entire country, from St. John's to Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. But you have here in Vancouver such a dedicated person that is sitting on our board, Anita Huberman, the CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade. She's been an advocate from day one. She's been appointed to the board. We should do things with SFU in Surrey. And the first time I met her, she took me to the campus, and I was thrilled by the architecture and everything. And now it's happening. So again, thank you, Michael. So have a great evening, and I hope you'll have the opportunity to really enjoy Circa 1948, as well as all the other pieces of art.
Thank you very much. One of the features, again, a lot of the partnerships are not just straight about, you've got this, I've got this. What we're doing is we're trying to look at cross-cultural initiatives. And I just wanted to mention that that's one of the unique things about our relationship with Vancouver International Film Festival. I'm going to have Alan Franney step up to say a few words about the partnership, but they've been fantastic in coming on board with this. We've been working with VIF in regards to them having film screenings within Burnaby and Surrey, and we're just going to have a screening next week of Deepa Mehta, and she will be in attendance. And again, there'll be a discourse happening there. So again, this wonderful cultural cross-fertilization. Alan Franney, could you please come up and speak?
Thanks, Michael. Yes, it's a great pleasure to be here and to have SFU as a partner. I want to explain that we've been using the SFU third floor cinema here for the last couple of years, and it's a very important venue for us. We're about to start on September 24th, running through October 9th at many venues in the city. But this is really now the center of the festival, with the number of venues in the vicinity, and there's a tremendous energy. So what a great thing to find a partner in SFU that is interested in not just being a venue operator, but in sharing ideas, thinking about the future of cinema, how we can engage young audiences, and how we can converse with the other arts through cinema and related media. So to have this opportunity, this project, Hidden Past Digital Futures, is extremely serendipitous in a number of ways for the film festival. When Michael was telling me about this, we didn't really know how we might participate, because a lot of the films that we're showing hadn't been made yet, let alone we hadn't seen them yet. But we had a feeling that cinema will relate to this topic very well. We don't know how many 3D films, how many immersive environments we'll be confronting. Stan is an old friend. We've had Stan involved with the festival for a number of years, and there's obviously a crossover between cinema and the other arts. Funnily enough, these days it sometimes feels as though movies are on the defensive. We hear about the end of movie theaters, possibly the end of cinema. It's being taken over by interactive arts and so on. Of course, that puts us in a slightly defensive position, and I don't think it's true. I think cinema has provided a language for the moving image which is still extremely relevant
and which people are willing to spend money on to come together in darkened rooms to watch things. So it's a very, very interesting conversation, and the stakes are rather high. So when we discovered that there was a number of films that relate very specifically to this conversation, it was quite exciting. We have them mentioned in our programs, which are down in the lobby and, of course, online. So there's a program in the festival, we call it a thematic, called Hidden Paths, Digital Futures, which is our voice at the table. And there's a number of films which have landed in our laps which are very relevant. I'll just mention two. Innocence of Memories is a film, brand new film, about Orhan Pamuk and his museum in Istanbul, but also about the wonderful novel he wrote, Innocence of Memories. That film reflects on what museums are, what the experience of a city is, and what movies are. So it's really about a way of experiencing life and processing thought, and it looks back to the past. Similarly, there's a film called The Thoughts That Once We Had, which is Tom Anderson's new film, which reflects on film language, film history. He takes an adversarial position in some ways because really what he's doing as a CalArts professor is trying to turn young people on to a philosophical way of looking at cinema, which he finds in the work of Gilles Deleuze. So these two films are exactly relevant, and a number of the other films are directly related. So we hope you will take time to see these amidst the wonderful work that is being presented here at SFU. I just want to say one thing about the Hampi piece. I've been fortunate enough to go to Karnataka and to the site of Hampi and Vijayanagar, as it was known. It's an extremely difficult place to get to, one of the most impressive I've ever been to in my life. So to be able to have it come here, however virtually, is magnificent. So thanks for the opportunity, and we look forward to seeing you at the movies and the art pieces.
Thank you very much. I just want to mention two other partners. Our media partner, Georgia Strait, who've been just remarkable throughout the years that we've existed. So I want to signal Laura Moore, who's in the audience, and Janet Smith, who also is involved in Speaking of Dance with us on occasion as a curator. So thank you very much. And I've got to say, you guys were so fantastic in regards to the cover that we got this week. And it was a rather, again, a unique relationship because they were, the Georgia State was open to having Stan have strong input into the look of the imagery of the cover. And we were just like, they were willing to go that way. So to have the art direction as part of the marketing of it was a brilliant sort of take. So I just want to thank them incredibly for making that happen. I also want to acknowledge Axis Theatre, who have prepared all the tours and done all the bookings and have docents that are basically able to handle teenagers with a language that is so unique in captivating them with this kind of stuff. So hopefully we want to thank them a lot, and they've just been a fantastic partner. That said, I want to now move on to our artists. Okay, Geoffrey Shaw has been a leading figure in new media arts since the earliest public participation and expanded cinema paradigm since the 60s. His critically acclaimed artworks have been exhibited at major museums and festivals throughout the world, where he's pioneered and set benchmarks for the creative use of interactive digital media technologies in the fields of virtual and augmented reality, immersive visualization environments. Also, he designed the iconic Pink Floyd floating pig in the mid-'80s. Geoffrey Shaw.
Pig was indeed one of many diversions. Look, I'd like to express also on behalf of Sarah my enormous gratitude for this opportunity to bring our work to Vancouver. I'd like to express my thanks to Andrew, who visited City U over 2 years ago, and instantly expressed his enthusiasm and passion for the work that we were happy to show him, and signaled his interest to bring that here. And then within a very short time, we started a conversation with Michael, and that conversation has been such a pleasure, because you've been utterly dedicated to making sure that the works we bring here will be presented in an optimal fashion, and they are truly being presented here as good as we would want them to be. It's also an exceptional situation where we are able to show not just one work, but actually 4 different works, which have interesting, some, I mean, they're very connected, but they are also very distinct, but it gives you and gives the public here in Vancouver an opportunity to understand, let's say, understand more about these works by understanding the differences between them, because actually these 4 works really are part of a much larger art practice that has been exploring the world of interactive media for many years, and where we as artists are very deeply committed to this strategy of representation and of dramatization as something that's very important to the way contemporary art, or to the future of contemporary art. And I'd like to say also, coming back to a comment about the cinema, I feel that what we are doing is very much embedded in traditions of the cinema. I think without the cinema, I can't imagine a world of digital media without the cinema as a source of inspiration, and also as a model for how the invention of a certain technological infrastructure can give birth to a cultural phenomena of such enormous importance and impact and uniqueness. So also our passion about the technology is a passion not out of, let's say, any fetishism for the technology itself, but the belief that these technologies really offer a new range of expressive tools for the artists, and also a new range of experiences for people who interact with these works. Past, future. I mean, I think we are in a peculiar moment, because one aspect of these technologies is that they move at a pace which we're not used to. I mean, I'll play with some words here. In the past, I would say the future lived in the future, okay? And when one talked about the future, one looked ahead to the future, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Now the future moves much faster than that. The future is tomorrow. I mean, we are already living in tomorrow. I mean, in the world of technology, we carry devices, but we are already imagining and we know what the next generation is going to look like. So we are already living, anticipating where it's going. And in a sort of in a peculiar way, the present is starting to really shrink to a place where one is spending a lot of time already, anticipating and living in the future. And this also impacts what our relationship is to the past. And I think we see, especially now, how certain developments are causing so much threat to the past. It's almost as if, given the fact that we are so addicted to the future, the past starts to tremble, starts to become more fragile than it ever was. So actually that conversation between past, present and future is very much, I think, fundamental to today's discourse. And also the Beckett pieces talk to that in a very fundamental way. So even though these, the Beckett pieces are not about cultural heritage, Beckett is talking about a place in time that somehow transcends past, present, and future. It is something that's happening in all time. And so I think it's appropriate that the Beckett pieces are linked to this, this other research strategy. Okay, thanks for that opportunity to share some thoughts with you.
Wow. I would like to now introduce Stan Douglas, who's been for more than 20 years, built a reputation here in Vancouver, an international reputation. His experimentation in cinema, television, and the museum, we all know. Stan has been a pioneer in using digital technology to tell nonlinear stories that reflect our history, back to using compelling visual settings that basically trigger a real kind of thematic resonance, dissonance. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Stan Douglas, please. Thank you.
Good evening. Somebody said, when you ever give a speech, always begin with a joke. So here goes. I am so old. I am so old that I went to art school at a place called the Vancouver School of Art. This was in the late 1970s when the Vancouver School of Art began at VCC, just a few blocks from here. And eventually, as it grew, it expanded and had various places in Smythe Street and on Water Street. They had, I think, the film studios in Smythe Street, Foundation and graduate studios were, or fourth-year studios were on Water Street. So coming to Vancouver School of Art at that point, I was in the city all the time. And I got to know the city. And in fact, my education was enhanced by being in the city, which I thought was really an important part of my education. And I remember in my second year, I was reading a lot about architecture, and I was walking on this street here, the original Skid Row, and had an epiphany. I always dealt with the city at street level. I would always look at store shops, where I was going, what I was buying. But after reading about architecture, I began looking up and realizing that I was in this place that was kind of a palimpsest of its history. If you look at the city closely enough, you can realize that it's telling you how it was made, who lived there, how they lived there, and how people imagined a life together. So I was kind of disappointed when Emily Carr went to Granville Island because it was a very antiseptic environment, very clean, very artificial, and this kind of random encounter that I think is so important in the city couldn't really happen there. So that's why I kind of admire SFU's strategy, which probably began at a time I was going to art school because they had an art studio at the Perel building back then, and eventually they've been sort of having this policy of infiltration, sort of like getting into different parts of the city, at the Harbor Center, at the conference center, and this, of course, this place here, they're kind of keystone, which makes people realize that SFU is a part of the city, and give the students who are here a sense of being in the city and being part of the community. So I kind of congratulate SFU on their strategy of infiltration, and I hope you continue to do that in the years to come. I'm from Vancouver, and I've seen a lot of things change in Vancouver, and I've always been curious about that transformation. One thing that inspired circa 1948 was to think what would happen after a post-war period, because I had this idea, this notion, kind of sadly not entirely true, that when George Bush was out of power and Barack Obama came in, it would be a post-war period and things would change. And I knew that, and there were kind of parallels between the post-World War II period and the post-War on Terror period, which seems like endless in a funny way. The economy was in shambles, there was a housing crisis, cities had to be rebuilt, there was a reconfiguration of urban space, there was a sort of shadowy threat at that point, communism to the West, and in this case, terrorism. So I thought these parallels might be interesting thing to look at how people addressed these sort of seemingly insurmountable problems and try to deal with them and imagine a future. Back then, they figured they would have the Bretton Woods Agreement, expand U.S. capitalism around the world, but also they've had a different way of reconfiguring urban space. First warehousing poor in the urban centers, and then having a suburbanization of the middle class so they could actually get accessible by roads which would get their friends a lot of money to build those highways and to build those buildings. But also the idea of inventing consumerism in that moment was a way of keeping everything sustainable, to make a perpetual motion machine that would allow the people who make things to buy those things, and that was the way things were going to go. But since then, there's been a radical change in the way people think about how to make money or how to govern. Because between the post-war period and the mid-1970s, there was more productivity than any time in history. But between the 1970s and now, there's been more wealth created, but a reduction in productivity, which is kind of a terrible thing. And the solution to get out of the recent recession we had was not to sort of empower the middle class to be able to buy things again, to participate again in the economy. It was to bail out the banks, and not to, and which is a very, very short-sighted, short-term solution, which in effect has no future. Anyway, so I thought my intuition was a process of going through, looking at how they dealt with these things in a post-war period might be a way of thinking of a solution. I didn't exactly know what I'd do, but I knew an intuition would be to look at these two places, mythical places, Hogan's Alley, mythologically a black neighborhood, but really a black Italian and Chinese neighborhood, in that very mixed neighborhood of Strathcona, and the Second Hotel Vancouver, which I came across as I was researching Strathcona, and I had no idea what this building was. I thought, what is that? This is a beautiful building that was now sort of a very simple Mies van der Rohe type international style tower. So researching that, I realized the story about the servicemen who were squatting it because they're homeless. Eventually, they got some money from the federal government to have homes in the suburbs. So they represent that middle class. People in Hogan's Alley were always afraid of having their homes taken away from them because of this idea of moral corruption and the so-called urban blight, this sort of fantasy that was going around North America at that time. So I thought these were kind of two good emblems to work with and two foils. And the essential thing in both the play I made, Helen Lawrence, and the app, circa 1948, is that these people are aware of this tension and they're connected. Even though they're separate spatially and in terms of class, they're deeply connected in many ways. We see them go back and forth and connect even with people outside of the city as well. So that was an important thought I had as I was making these things. So in closing, I'd just like to thank all the various people who were involved in this project. In particular, I'd like to thank Johnny Awesome, and I think Prajay's there too, Prajay Mehta, who were part of the team of 10 graduate students from Emily Carr that I hired in the summer of 2009 to begin building a realistic, historically accurate model of Hogan's Alley before I exactly knew what I was going to do with it, even though I had an intuition it was the right thing to do. Also, I'd like to thank Sel and Jacob, who actually, when I approached them with my sort of insanely ambitious idea for what I wanted to do with the material, they said, well, we can't afford it, but if you got a little digital kernel that we could work with, let's do it. And we eventually came up with this. And of course, Locke Dow and this digital team at the NFB, who, as I was kind of bumbling along in the technology I knew nothing about, and he realized that we'd almost used your entire budget up, kind of began to pay a lot more attention and sort of realize maybe we should have a bit more sort of rigor to the way we were doing it. And in a number of years, we got that thing done. So I'd like to thank them all for the collaboration on circa 1948. And I'd like to congratulate them on this installation we see out here, this insanely cool thing, this installation that's in the atrium there. And thank you for coming and listening. Thank you.
Before I pass it over to Howard, I'd just like to wrap up by just acknowledging a few people that were critical to making this happen. The international team, project managed by Damien Leonard, just an extraordinary man, was an anchor throughout the whole project. Special mention to our production manager, David Shipp, and his crew, loyal and hardworking and just extraordinary, filling in all the time. My immediate team, Leanne Prain, Tamara Mascara, and just like you guys were just amazing. You went with the roller coaster ride. Thank you very much. Cultural Unit, Howard Jang. And finally, I really want to extend a real thank you to the President and External Relations. Both Andrew and Philip have been extraordinary in believing this project, making it happen. And we hope that we've delivered for you, and we will do all we can to make this an extraordinary year for the 50th anniversary. And just one last thing, I just want to just honor this this whole exhibit personally to a recent colleague of mine who is also SFU faculty, Roman Onufrichuk, who is an extraordinary prof, who is a former boss of mine at Knowledge Network, passed away, and I just want to sort of honor this by giving this tribute to him. Thank you very much, everyone. Howard.
Thank you very much, Michael. You know, after hearing all our guests, our partners, and our artists speak, you know, it just whets the appetite absolutely for, I think, for the rich content and the immense deep dialogue that I know we can get into. I remind you to please come back tomorrow to the panels tomorrow, and great to partner with SFU Galleries on these panels, and I think we're in for a really wonderful conversation. So tonight, we have over 11 unique exhibits for you to experience. Each is unique with distinct artistic intentions, distinct technologies, and limited viewer capacities, and yes, differing locations, all within a walking distance. Now, the two main areas we will guide you to tonight are the Woodward Atrium, which we might rename the Douglas Atrium. The location is primarily downstairs within the Fay and Milton Wong Experimental Theater and the lobby itself. Throughout the evening, there are 3 of the exhibits where you will be required to don 3 different sets of 3D glasses. They are each designed for specific systems. That's what makes these exhibits also special. Now, as we are a bit of a large group, this is really a sip and savor kind of evening. You're getting a taster of this fantastic digital smorgasbord. To properly experience all of the exhibits, it would take 2 dedicated hours. So after you savor them this evening, we ask you, well, tell all your friends, come back and book a tour, and get taken through by one of our trained tour guides. Now, to best enjoy tonight's exhibits, we have information panels and brochures all assigned to each of our lobby exhibits to inform you of the multiple inspiration behind the creations. So, enjoy, have a lot of fun, and it's my great pleasure to introduce our final guest for this evening before we send you off, Sarah Kenderdine. She's a former maritime archaeologist. Professor Sarah Kenderdine researches at the forefront of interactive and immersive experiences for museums and galleries. In widely exhibited installation work, she has amalgamated cultural heritage with new media art practice, especially in the realms of interactive cinema, virtual and augmented reality, and embodied narrative. At the University of New South Wales, she is director of the Expanded Perception and Interaction Center and the Laboratory for Innovation in Galleries, Libraries, Archives, and Museums. And in the last 10 years, she has created over 80 exhibitions, including a multi-award-winning new museum in South India. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Kenderdine.
Set this up. So how are you all doing? You must be exhausted. Anyone want to move around, change positions, get a seat? There are 2 down there. I was charged with giving you a short visual essay about the works that we're showing here. The exhibition brings together art and technology to create sensory experience of cultural heritage. The interactive works that you will see allow us to rediscover and reinvent ancient cities' cultural objects and practices. Access to the cultural and natural wonders of the world is of paramount importance as we are simultaneously witnessing extreme forms of cultural cleansing focused on destroying the foundations of societies. While politically motivated and religiously motivated destruction of heritage has been with us for thousands of years, it remains one of the most powerful sociocultural weapons in our times. In the words of UNESCO, awareness of cultural heritage in conflict preservation and resolution is more than a cultural emergency, it's a political and security imperative. In addition, climate change catastrophes are increasing at alarming rates. Natural disasters are wreaking havoc, and mass tourism is threatening to engulf those places that we hold most dear. Digital imaging technologies have become vital tools for us to be able to create futures from the past. Laser scanning, for example, collects billions of points to represent places, such as these heads at Mount Rushmore. We can create precious objects in 3D and then peer inside to see what was previously unseen. New possibilities in capturing motion over time data allow us to create 4 and 5 dimensional archives of traditional art forms. And we can also capture art in a way that lets us zoom into the tiniest brushstroke to reveal more than the naked eye can see. But these new imaging technologies alone are not enough to bring cultural objects and places to life in ways that are profound and unforgettable. And it's creating these narratives of engagement that's at the heart of hidden pasts and digital futures. We begin our journey in the Dongguan caves in the Gobi Desert of northernmost China. At the nexus of the Silk Road, this World Heritage Site has 492 caves carved into this escarpment. Inside these caves, there are 45,000 square meters of mural paintings and over 2,500 statues. They were crafted by Buddhist monks over a period of 1,000 years. This sublime art treasury is like nothing else in the Chinese Buddhist world. These caves are under serious threat from microclimate change, increasing human traffic at the site, rising humidity levels. In an enormous preservation effort, mass digitization is underway there. They employ 60 full-time photographers, and it takes 3 months to photograph a single cave. We took the photographic texture and the laser scan to create Pure Land inside the Mogao grottos at Dongguan, and it's staged in a 360 3D interactive environment. It's 10 meters across and 4.5 meters high, and it gives about 30 people a one-to-one scale experience of being inside the cave. The journey begins with a cave browser of significant caves throughout Dongguan. Our subject is cave 220, and we enter inside this virtual world, simulating what it's like to be there if you do visit the site. You're with 60 people and 1 LED torch held by a guide. Very little, in fact, is revealed, but the digital world is extremely powerful, it's navigable, and it can be augmented in a number of ways. And these augmented ways are what we invite you to come and look at this evening and later during the exhibition period. The digital data from Cave 220 has been used to create a number of experiences of this cave. In the augmented reality version, the wireframe from the laser scan was printed on the walls of this exhibition space, again at one-to-one scale. Using these mobile windows on the world, visitors are walking inside this digital model and examining the very high-resolution images. It's a fully embodied experience. It's a bit of a workout as an interface. It has 3 qualities which are particularly noteworthy. Firstly, the social dynamic that it creates around a single screen. So this social dynamic is at the core of the museum experience. To give everyone their own device breaks that down. So harnessing these social experiences are important. Multi-generational interfaces, young children, middle-aged ladies, grandmother, grandchild. Grandmother abandons the grandchild. And the third phenomenon is virtual tourism. So the wife is filming on her own iPad from her handbag her husband's experience on the iPad. It's really like being there. The democratization of virtual reality through head-mounted display, of course, is irresistible. In this application, we're tracking the person entirely, so they're not tethered, they're wearing the computer, and they're able to walk around inside the cave again at one-to-one scale. A 3 million polygon model, noise-cancelling headphones, isolated but certainly engaging. And last week at the World Economic Forum in Dalian, a fully interactive full-dome version gave participants another architectonic experience of being inside the cave. When the Washington Post correspondent Philip Kennicott said of Pure Land, "At last we have a virtual reality system of inclusion in a museum devoted to the real stuff of art," he was describing a new phenomenon, a proliferation of aura where high-fidelity digital facsimiles accrue profound effect in the same way real objects do. At Dongguan, only 10 of the caves are open to the public, and the real Cave 220 is permanently closed. Our virtual representations in this myriad of forms have opened it again to over 1 million visitors worldwide so far. Travelling from ancient China to historic India, place Hampi, an artwork commissioned for France-India Year, which has subsequently toured the world. Hampi is a monumental World Heritage Precinct and a vibrant centre for contemporary pilgrimage, and the artwork recombines 25 square kilometres of this extraordinary terrain in a 3D panoramic imaginary. The panoramas are taken using a rare stereoscopic film camera, a left and right eye image. We do ambisonic sound recording for a 3D architecture of sound, motion capture for animation. The artwork was originally staged in the Place platform by Geoffrey Shaw. It has a 360-degree screen with a motorized platform at the center, and you're rotating a field of view in 360 degrees. Any member of the public is able to take about 25 to 30 people that might be in that room on a serendipitous journey of discovery of many of the wonderful locations at Hampi. This work too you will see downstairs, reframed in the AV system, the 360 3D system, and you'll hear more about that later. This work is now part of a permanent museum right next to the World Heritage Site in Karnataka. A few images from the launch of the museum, Hanuman, an important figure at Hampi. And this is Laxmi, the temple elephant. She came over from Hampi to these celebrations to bless politicians, etc. But this is what Laxmi is normally doing, and this is what happens in Hampi Bazaar. So it's a very, very rich, intangible heritage. This is the marriage of Pampa and Virupaksha. And Laxmi is blessing elephants. Keep that vibrant picture in your mind, because as we were building the museum, the Archaeological Survey of India began systematic destruction of every single temporary dwelling on the site. So 5,000 refugees within the space of a couple of days, cleaning up for 5-star tourism. This was the barbershop when we first started working at Hampi, and this is the barbershop today. So this image here is a holy man cleaning up after a puja on a Shiva linga at Hampi, and it represents a profound human care of the material world that we surround ourselves with. Heritage status is no protection, nor is it protection against environment or warfare. And so digital preservation practices and their manifestation in these future cinematic experiences are creating reservoirs of us for interpretation and then reinterpretation, which are vital. Unmakeable Love, another work you'll see tonight, reframes the human condition of incarceration and dislocation, prevalent also in our times. This work is based on Samuel Beckett, a piece of prose called The Lost Ones that describes a community of 200 people incarcerated inside a confined space and the resulting constraint and deprivation of these inhabitants' lives. The scientific exactitude of Beckett's text enabled it to be analyzed and coded into software algorithms which computationally animate interpretations of his characters. And using over 350 motion capture sequences, we strung together this emergent world using 30 half-life size characters. Beckett's prose has been interpreted by a number of leading scholars, including Lyotard, who describes a systematic madness, another a cybernetic machine, a disembodied artificial intelligence, exploring the boundary between human and post-human. Interactive torches are combined with infrared cameras to create a hybrid mixed reality, ensuring those who experience the work, that's you, also become the protagonists. And as the CEO of Intel, Brian Krasnick, said last year, we're in the midst of a transformation from a world of screens and devices to a world of immersive experiences. Hidden past digital futures invite you inside. Thank you. And now you can take a break.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Well, is your appetite whetted yet? So feel free to go down to the famed Milton Wong Theatre or out to the Atrium, the Douglas Atrium, and enjoy. Thank you so much for being here.
So we were just in a 3D immersive installation that had to do with the Buddhist caves in China. Not just the caves themselves, but the artwork that they contained and the process by which that was, sort of fully brought back to life, recolored, reanimated, and all of the sort of many sort of myriad details that the human eye couldn't detect were sort of brought to life in 3D form. So it was pretty interesting, I've got to say.
It's a wonderful experience. It feels like you're right back in the cityscape, interacting with the architectural forms and some of the human forms, and it gives you a sense of time and space that you wouldn't get if you were not engaged to the extent that this exhibit allows you to be.
Circa 1948, this particular project allows the participant to be interactively involved with the story without any wires. So you can move around, you can move through the rooms, and you can be involved and immersed in the story without any kind of wires attached to it. I think that's past VR, and I think that's the future of storytelling.
I don't know the name of the piece, but it's this piece where you have those post-apocalyptic, cadaveric-looking virtual characters. What's very interesting about the piece is that it has the real quality of voyeurism, where you get to see, and they don't see you, they don't know about you, and they're virtual characters, and they're driven by AI, and they're game characters.
It ties into the very sort of nature of the installations themselves, in that they're immersive and they're experiential, and that you actually have to physically be here. You can't sort of do it from your computer in your house. You have to come to the site, you have to engage with the work in situ, in here, and that's the sort of the totality of that experience. It's kind of, I think, in keeping with what SFU is trying to do.
I've been excited and looking forward to this overall festival for some time, because I think it really brings together a whole bunch of different mediums and ideas, and animates in a way that I think people are going to find very exciting. So it's really exciting to see how interactive techniques, 3D, animation can really bring to life human experience, and I think make us aware of really important issues that we need to consider for today, looking at the past, looking at the future.